4 years ago, I started my YouTube channel as a hobby, delivering US political news, which the mainstream media refused to tell the truth about. I did not know that I was actually going to be able to interview with this person next to me, who is a leading political figure in the United States, and also the son of the former president of the United States of America. Welcome, Don Jr.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Don, so how familiar are you with Korea?
Quite a bit, actually. I've come, more than half a dozen times, both business for fun with my kids. Spent a lot of time here. Had a lot of friends. Went to a boarding school when I was a kid, and for high school in central Pennsylvania. And it was just seemed to be a place where there was actually a fairly large Korean contingent. So sort of had lifelong friends from the country. So it's pretty familiar to me.
Really? Yeah. So before we go on to serious matters, what is your favorite Korean food?
Oh, well, listen, you gotta always go with the traditional, bibimbap or something like that. But like just Korean barbecue done well is great. So I never lose weight in Korea. You guys eat much healthier than us. It's prepared well, but I make up for it in quantity.
Oh my gosh, are you a spicy person?
I can do spice better than most, for sure.
Right now, Korean people have a lot of misunderstandings about the Trump family. While you're here, can you please tell us a little bit about your family coming out from the actual Trump family member, right?
Yeah, well, listen, I think everyone's probably seen
the media.
The media. Well, and everything that they've said, it almost doesn't matter what subject they're talking about. You go back in time and you realize that it was probably a lie or a gross exaggeration or a message designed to deliver a very specific, often incorrect narrative.
Right.
Now, by the time you figure that out, 6 months later, 2 weeks later, 5 years later, they've already accomplished what they were trying to do, and guiding that message, oftentimes very far away from the truth. In the States, we sort of have this joke, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth? And it's 6 months.
That's right.
It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's not. It's
just
the truth. I wouldn't take basically anything that they say for granted, but I think what's been interesting these days is they've gone so far overboard. They've pushed that narrative so far that they can't lie to the people forever. The people have figured it out. It's so extreme that sort of overcorrection has sort of made people aware. And I think there's just an incredible distrust for the media because of that. So I'm not sure exactly what the people think of us there, but I can imagine if everything else you've been told. I would say look at us through that same filter.
Yes,
understanding the difference between what was told to you or sold to you, and what actually is.
Wow. So what got you into politics? Were you always interested in politics? Because of your dad, or?
Yeah, no, I was always a conservative, right? But if you're a conservative as a real estate developer from New York City, a little bit harder, right? You still, my first political fundraiser ever was for Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York. Who's a big leftist.
Seriously?
Well, he was the attorney general in New York, and if you're the attorney general, you sign off on offering plans. Offering plans, the thick book that you do every time you sell a building. Right? We were real estate developers. That's what we did. So you need the attorney general. If you don't have that relationship, you're not going to get to build or sell your building, right? So I was always a conservative, but you understood you sort of had to play both games. When my father ran, obviously that sort of changed everything. And for me,
of course,
I'm more of a fighter. You can either sit back in the corner and do nothing, or you can fight, and I chose to fight.
Right.
Here we are.
Wow. So by doing that, you had to sacrifice a lot as a family.
Well, they continue to, go after us for nonsense. You probably read about the stuff in, whether it's New York State, but all of the Democrat areas, they're going after you, trying to throw my father in jail for 1,000 years. They're trying to find us literally billions of dollars. The people who are the alleged victims of these supposed things are literally on the witness stand testifying for us, saying, no, we had a great relationship. What are you talking about? They don't even know why they're there. But that's where we are in America as a country right now. One side is trying to jail their political opposition. They've given up on any kind of rules or decency.
Sure.
And that's pretty scary, and it should be for a lot of people. It's not like it just stops at Trump, right? It's just become common practice.
Of course.
Once things like that get normalized, that creates a serious problem for the future.
And yet, the Trump family is very energetic still.
Well, no one's ever accused us of being no energy.
I know. Looking at you, you're very energetic, and your dad.
We had a late night, so.
Late night. Your dad, he's a lot of people say that he's old. You know, Biden is in his 80s, he's older.
Well, you put the two up against each other, it's not even close. And age is relative, right? I mean,
Of course.
we know people who are 60s that are, it's over, right? It's a shame. You see, the mind is slipping, the energy is slipping. And then we know people in their 90s who are, there's a difference. You
Very
see my
awake.
father, he gets up on this stage, he'll talk to people for 2 hours straight, pressed, whatever it may be. Still every day.
Wow.
You see Joe Biden, they put him on a stage with a teleprompter and he gets lost. I make fun of it but it's actually scary. I mean,
Sure.
he forgets where he is. Reading the teleprompter, he forgets to read it.
Sure.
There's 80s and there's Joe Biden 80, and there's a big difference.
We have the 2024 election coming. What are your thoughts on the 2024 election and the whole election issues? Are you preparing anything to resolve that issue?
I mean, I know that people are working on it. A lot of that stuff is done at the state level, right? So
Yes.
in a lot of places that it happens, it's total Democrat control. So that we can vote without IDs. We can vote for 30 days. You can mail in ballots from home. Doesn't matter. No one's checking it.
Illegals can vote.
Yeah, they're trying to do that in many places. They're actually allowing that for local elections, and so it's absolutely absurd. But the same media and it's the safest election ever. Well, why? Like just because you say it doesn't make it so, right? Of course it's not. So it is an issue, something you eventually have to fix. But in the meantime, you have to still get there to fix, right? You have to win to actually be able to make a kind of change. And so, we just have to keep hammering that home. I think right now, the American populace sees what's going on, right? They feel it. I get it. I'm the son of a billionaire from Manhattan, right? If I'm upset when I go to the grocery store because it's expensive, I'm not saying it's going to change my habit, but if
Do you actually get upset about that?
I mean, I had McDonald's with two of my sons a couple weeks ago. It was like $47 for McDonald's, and I'm like, if I have sticker shock, I'm not saying it's going to change my habit. It doesn't matter to me, but like, if I'm like, man, that seems really crazy.
Wow.
What's happening to some family making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year? I mean, they're getting crushed. And so, I think people understand that. They see that. The economic side of things, that disaster, how quickly it changed.
Sure.
They see our standing on a world stage, whether that be with China or other countries. You see what's going on in the wars breaking out all over the world. Like we had peace, we had prosperity, we had this, and now we have the opposite of that. So, on the ground, there's an incredible amount of enthusiasm. But, as we saw in 2020, there's going to be a lot of games played. The Democrats, just because they're failing miserably and their policies are a disaster, it's not going to stop them from doing what they do. So I imagine, we have yet to see what exactly they're going to do, but I'm sure it'll be very devious and very prolific. You almost have no choice, right? I mean, you saw what they did on Easter. Easter, it's a trans day of remembrance. It's not, Biden doesn't remember. I never did that. The day later, I'm like, what? You literally, it's like the number one thing that you guys were doing. And there's a very conscious displacement of Christians in America, right? It is a class that is, totally underrepresented or not at all represented or, frankly, despised by today's left. I mean, again, just to think like, we're going to make a really big deal, a huge proclamation on Easter Sunday about Trans Day of Remembrance. There's like 145 trans holidays in America because of this nonsense. And like, you know what? We're going to just displace Easter. That sort of tells you everything you need to know. I mean, and that they make everything has to be about that. I mean, that's scary. You then see, the attacks from the DOJ, the FBI. They bought a Bible. They're a terrorist. They're a domestic terrorist. It's like, what are you talking about?
I know.
And yet, you think it's a joke. You think it's funny. It's like a caricature of a country. But it's happening.
It is.
And it's real. And that should scare people a lot. And if it doesn't wake them up, then we're probably beyond the pale. We're beyond that point of actually being able to be saved.
And what's sad is whatever's happening in America is happening in Korea as well.
It seems like that. I mean, in the couple days that we've been here, I mean, it seems like that common thread. There is a lack of God. The sort of socialist, communist ideals are being pushed. It's really easy to buy someone's vote by, I'm going to give you everything, and you don't have to worry about it. And there's a attack on not just those who work, but even the concept of like a work ethic.
Sure.
And so it seems like a lot of the things that we see in the United States that I think are very troubling for the future, for our children, for everything, are actually sort of a mirror image of what's going on here.
Yes.
And in some cases here it could be worth, again, just, the very low birth rate. And I get it. It's, it's hard. It's hard to afford that. It's not
Yes.
that. We've also become sort of a instant gratification society. It's like, well, I want to have fun tonight, and then having a baby. I mean, I may actually be some work, and I don't want to work, and I don't want to do that, and then one day you wake up and it's too late. So, I think, I think we need a lot of work to sort of preserve, let's call it Western civilization as we know it, because I think there's a huge attack and affront on all of those things.
So I'm trying to let Korean American voters know that that's important, because a lot of immigrants, as you know, are leaning towards left because of the Democrats' policies.
But I think if you look at today's immigrant policy, I mean, like we're pro-immigration,
really
right? Like my mom's an immigrant.
Sure.
We're pro-immigration, but we want people who are going to add value. We want people who are going to create jobs. We want people who bring something to that community, who cherish the values our country was founded on. And that's not what we're importing right now.
Right.
I think if you look at sort of the Korean American family, like a lot, I mean, I think they're probably thriving in America. But that's not what we're bringing in across the border. I mean, the unvetted criminals, in many cases, the dregs of society, terrorists that they're letting into this country because they're trying to sway vote. Like, that's a direct affront on all of the things that, the great hardworking immigrants who came to America with a purpose and with a reason and who are trying to live their American dream. I mean, those two things are not the same.
Right.
And I think, I think a lot of immigrants, while they may have seen that in the past, they're starting to understand the difference between, that narrative. I mean,
and its result and consequences to
correct. I mean, the Korean Americans, small business owners, look at what's happening in small business in these Democrat states.
Sure.
Well, they can steal $1,000 and nothing's going to happen to them. They may do that 10 times a day, but we can't touch that person, right? That person is literally a piece of garbage, and but the business, you just have to deal with. I'm sorry. That's a problem. And again, I think it's so ridiculous right now that there's almost no amount of lying or influence or whatever that's going to be able to sway that.
I have one last question for you, and this is the most important question that a lot of my subscribers wanted to ask. Media narrative. It sounds like Trump doesn't like Korea much because he wants Korea to pay its fair share on defense fees, right? And we all have to be responsible for.
Everyone needs a vested interest, right? I think. With my father, he kept North Korea in check.
Yes.
Because they understood strength, right? You look at Joe Biden and then you just, of course I'm going to attack. That's the nature of predation throughout time, right?
Sure.
You see weakness and you go for it. But there does need to be sort of that relationship. It can't be, America's got $34 trillion in debt, and we'll pay for everyone. Here's another $150 billion for Ukraine. No one can tell me why we're there. So everyone sort of needs a seat at the table. And just because perhaps traditionally America just did these things doesn't mean it works forever, right? So, I mean, if there's going to be that relationship, I think it has to be an actual partnership. It has to be an understanding, not just like, okay, that's great, you do whatever you want, you pay for it, you take care of us. I mean, I think my father did the same with NATO, and it forced them to become involved. And once they started spending their money, they were vested, right? All of a sudden, these things started mattering, and I think that makes a big deal. So I don't think that's not an affront on Korea. That's just common sense.
Every other country.
Yeah.
But he doesn't hate Korea or dislike Korea.
He loves it. I think my first trip I ever did to Korea was here with him. We had a partnership and a deal with Daewoo. We had business relationship, we had personal relationship. We go back to high school. So that's not it at all. I think you still have to run a country. You have to do what's best for your country, and then those relationships, and everyone has to have a stake in the fire, in my opinion.
Wow, I'm relieved. Thank you. And would you encourage the young generation of Korea or Korean Americans who are fighting in this cultural war?
Yeah, you don't have a choice. You need to be involved. Just watch what's happening. I mean, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? The answer is obviously not. Like, there's no way, hey, maybe unless you won the lottery or something like that, maybe you got lucky, but you can change that. You don't have to just sit by and be attacked and have that affront and have your small business destroyed and have your taxes raised to fund, ridiculous, trans policy that doesn't have anything to do with you. So, I think people have to understand they can't just sit idly by and hope that it takes care of itself. It won't. It's gone too extreme. So people actually have to be involved. They have to get engaged. They have to be part of that fight.
Well, thank you so much for your time, John.
My pleasure. Great to be here.
Thank you.